Okay, it says now streaming live.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our daily highlights. I'm here with Dr. Stephanie Taylor. Today we'll be going through daily highlights of what happened over the weekend with the COVID-19 virus. Stephanie will then be sharing a quick story of some friends of hers, looking through on the confusions of absolute versus relative humidity. We'll go through and explain that. And then we'll look into a new data modeling sample that Stephanie has researched here. And then finally, we'll have a nice sign off for everyone. So over the weekend, the US has now become, now has the most cases of any country. The CDC is expecting to have over 140,000 cases, both confirmed and presumed for the states. New York State has been hit especially bad with over 1,000 deaths in the states and 776 confirmed in New York City itself. The total world number of cases is up over 700,000. So this really is a true pandemic we have on our hands. With that, I'll pass it over to Stephanie, and she can talk about the data a bit there and moving forward with to absolute versus relative humidity. Stephanie?
Hey, hi everyone. This is Dr. Stephanie Taylor, and I was talking with actually a friend here where I live. I live in northern Vermont in a ski town, and he was saying that it doesn't really help if we humidify our buildings for protection because people outdoors or people riding up in the gondola won't be protected. So I then realized that there's quite a bit of confusion about absolute humidity versus relative humidity. And so now Graham is going to give everyone an explanation about the difference between absolute and relative humidity in outdoor and indoor conditions. Thanks.
All right, so everybody, there's two general concepts people like to talk about when it comes to humidity. There is absolute humidity, which is the mass of water vapor divided by the mass of air at a given temperature. So this is really kind of the total amount of moisture in the air at one time. But what we've been talking about over these daily highlights is the relative humidity and how that affects things. And that is the ratio of the current absolute humidity compared to the highest possible absolute humidity. So to simplify that again, it's basically the ratio between the amount and the maximum. So another way to say it would be like how full of moisture the air is. And this really starts to come into play in seasonal differences between outside temperature and the inside temperature that we like to have. So in an example, a cold environment, let's say 35 Fahrenheit at 100% relative humidity. So that air outside can't hold any more moisture. If we bring that air in and we heat it up to 72 Fahrenheit, we still have the same amount of moisture in the air, but now that air can hold much more moisture. So really we have only filled up that air to 25% of its capacity. And this is where relative humidity starts coming into play. So that starts to beg the question, if it's a foggy day outside, which is basically 100% relative humidity at 35 Fahrenheit, do we need to humidify indoors? And the answer is yes, because 25% relative humidity is too low for our models and really outside of that ideal condition. So with that, I'll pass it back to Stephanie and she can talk about the data modeling sample that we've got.
So hi, so a very proactive, innovative student at MIT has been reading the material, and he did some mathematical modeling. And essentially what he did was take the transmission rates of COVID-19 based on new cases in different geographical settings. And he compared the temperature and the indoor humidity in those areas with the transmission rate of the virus. So with that starting data, he came up with this statistical modeling. And what this shows is on day 0 on this graph, on the x-axis, there's a theoretical infected person that enters a building. The blue lines show the number of people in the building who can possibly become infected. And the red line shows the actual, based on modeling, the number of people who become infected. So that the bottom line here is if you follow the thick red line that starts at day 0, goes up a little bit, comes down, that's the theoretical number of infected cases in a building that's 60% relative humidity. And conversely, the faint red line, which goes much higher, shows the infectious transmission at whatever that lower one is. Yeah, at 30% relative humidity. So this is based on transmission rates of COVID-19 and showing the ability of managing the indoor humidity to decrease the number of people who become infected. So it's pretty remarkable study, and we're following up with more specific and a larger data set.
Yeah, so that's our quick update for today. We'll be following up again tomorrow with more highlights as this situation progresses. With that, please follow Stephanie on LinkedIn. She posts tons of different studies and different articles explaining the data that we've been bringing to you. You know, to end off, we'd like to ask a lighter note question. So what are you guys doing to stay sane during the quarantine? All right, so everyone stay safe and enjoy your day as much as possible. Thanks.
See you tomorrow.